Tell me, have you ever noticed that the moment you stop chasing, grasping, and worrying, life suddenly begins to move in your favor, as if something deeper has always been working for you? There is a sacred power within you that has been active since the moment you first became aware of yourself. It is quiet, subtle, and profoundly creative. It does not shout, it does not force, it does not struggle. It simply imagines, and whatever it imagines with conviction, it eventually expresses as your reality. Most people live their entire lives unaware of this inner power. They are convinced that the world outside is the cause, and they are merely the effect. But the truth is beautifully reversed. Your inner state creates your outer experience. Your imagination is not a place you go to escape the world. It is the workshop where worlds are formed. In this lecture, I make you a promise. By the end of our time together, you will understand exactly how to relax into the feeling of having your desire right now and allow it to manifest effortlessly. Not by force, not by waiting, but by being. The struggle you have felt is not a sign of failure. It is simply a sign of misunderstanding. You have been trying to do the work that was always meant to be felt. When you learn how to relax into the state of fulfillment, quiet, sure, calm, your world will bend to your inner certainty. So breathe and allow your heart to recognize what it has always known. You already are the one who has the life you are seeking. There is a moment in every person's life when they begin to understand that external effort alone cannot create the life they desire. You can push, force, struggle, and grind for months, even years, without seeing meaningful change. And yet a single moment of deep inner alignment can transform everything. The power you are seeking does not emerge from tension, nor from stress, nor from trying to make things happen. It arises from inner stillness, a calm, steady awareness that quietly directs the course of your experience. In stillness, the mind settles, the heart softens, the breath slows, and you recognize that beneath the noise of daily life, there is something unwavering within you. It is the quiet space where imagination becomes real. This stillness is not emptiness, it is creative silence. It is the womb of manifestation. When you close your eyes and allow your thoughts to slow, what remains? A screen, a space of awareness, and anything you place upon that inner screen. Any scene, image, or reality you emotionally accept as true begins to take shape in your physical world. Not because of magic, but because the state you hold inside yourself conditions your behavior, your decisions, your responses, your expectations, your posture, your tone, your perception, your energy. That inner state becomes the center of gravity from which your reality forms around you. The world outside rearranges to reflect what you have already accepted within. Yet most people do not live in stillness. They live in mental noise. They chase, they doubt, they analyze, they worry, they rehearse failure, they anticipate disappointment. This constant internal movement distorts the creative power of imagination. Instead of shaping reality with clarity and conviction, they produce scattered outcomes, confused circumstances, unsteady results. When the mind is restless, creation becomes chaotic. But when the mind becomes still, creation becomes intentional. Inner stillness is not about emptying the mind. It is about quieting the reactive mind so the creative mind can speak. It is the space where you choose what to believe, rather than being controlled by habitual thought. Stillness gives you access to your creative authority, for in that silent awareness, you are no longer the one being shaped by life. You are the one shaping life. Imagine holding a desire in your heart, not as something you are reaching for, but as something you already possess in your inner world. Notice how your breath changes. Notice how your shoulders drop. Notice how your nervous system softens. In that moment of relaxation, you have stopped telling reality that you are lacking. You are telling reality that you are fulfilled. And reality must respond to the identity you embody, not the desire you are chasing. Stillness is the act of letting go of the chase. This is why the ancient mystics taught that creation is effortless, not lazy, effortless. When you are in the state of fulfillment internally, you do not have to force anything. The right opportunities, the right people, the right timing, all flow to you because you are no longer vibrating with the energy of yearning. You are living from the state of having. Stillness aligns your emotions with completion, not absence. It is the sacred moment where you stop asking life to give you something and start declaring that you already are the one who has it. But do not misunderstand. Stillness is not passive. It is the most powerful act of creation. It is in stillness that you choose the reality you will live. It is in stillness that you imprint your imagination into the fabric of your experience. It is in stillness that you say, this is who I am, and the world bows to that identity. The external world is only the shadow cast by the state you occupy within. Change the state, and the shadow must change. This is why the greatest transformations occur, not when you are struggling to change your outer circumstances, but when you shift your inner conviction. When you close your eyes and feel the reality you desire as true, you are creating directly at the source. You are speaking to reality in its native language, imagination. The universe does not respond to your words. It responds to your state of being. And your state of being is shaped not by what is happening outside of you, but by what you accept as real within. So the invitation is simple. Become still, not tomorrow, not when circumstances improve. Now, sit with the feeling of already being who you wish to become. Let your imagination paint the world you want to live in. Let your heart soften into the emotion of fulfillment. Let your breath show you that there is nothing to chase. And as you relax into this inner knowing, reality begins to change without effort. Because the moment you understand that creation begins in stillness, you will stop measuring progress by physical evidence. You will measure it by how deeply you have accepted your desire internally. And once that acceptance is complete, manifestation becomes inevitable. But to understand why imagination holds such power, to see why it is the true center of creation, you must look deeper into the nature of consciousness itself. And when you do, everything becomes clear. Now we move into the next revelation, the truth about imagination being the creative center of reality. Your imagination is not fantasy, nor is it a place of escape. It is the origin point of everything you have ever experienced before anything existed in your life. It first existed as a thought, a feeling, a mental picture, or a silent assumption within you. Every relationship, every success, every loss, every breakthrough, every limitation, each one began as an internal impression before it appeared as an external event. Most people believe the world is happening to them, as if they are simply reacting to forces outside their control. But when you look closely, you begin to notice something profound. The world you experience is shaped by the state of mind you consistently imagine yourself to be in. Consider a person who believes they are unloved. Even when love is offered, they cannot accept it. Their imagination has already formed the identity of being unworthy. And so their behavior, their interpretations, their emotional responses all follow the inner script of I am not chosen. It is not the outer world denying them love. It is their own inner picture projecting itself outward. Likewise, someone who imagines themselves to be successful, even before success appears, radiates a quiet confidence that draws opportunities, people, and resources into alignment. The world responds to who you believe yourself to be, not who you hope you might become someday. Imagination is not passive. It is creative substance. The images you hold with feeling impress themselves upon your subconscious mind, and the subconscious expresses them through your thoughts, behaviors, physical conditions, and external circumstances. You may think you are merely daydreaming, but in reality, you are issuing instructions to the very blueprint of your life. Your inner world is the cause. Your outer world is the effect. Change the cause and the effect must change. This is the law. Yet many people misuse imagination without realizing it. They imagine lack, loss, disappointment, rejection, failure, and hardship. Not deliberately, but habitually. Their imagination is dominated by fear and memory rather than vision and intention. They rehearse arguments before they happen. They anticipate things going wrong. They picture themselves being overlooked, defeated, or struggling, and reality, obeying the mold of these internal images, dutifully takes the shape of what is held as true within. This is why the world can appear to repeat itself. The mind is replaying the same script. The key is to reclaim conscious authorship of what you imagine, not by force, but by awareness. When you notice where your mind wanders, you begin to see what you have been creating all along. You realize that imagination is not something that happens to you. It is something you can direct with intention. This direction does not come from tension, but from feeling. When you imagine a state, the emotional tone of that state determines whether the subconscious accepts it. If you imagine luxury but feel doubt, the doubt is what is impressed. If you imagine love but feel unworthiness, the unworthiness is what is impressed. Feeling is the creative seal, so the art is to feel the desired reality as already true, to imagine the end result, not as a distant dream, but as a present identity, to breathe into the version of yourself who already stands where you wish to stand. The moment your imagination and your feeling align, creation has begun. The world does not change instantly, but the seed has been planted, and all seeds grow in silence. This is why imagination is the most sacred faculty of the human spirit. It is not mere thought, it is the power that molds the unseen into the seen. And once you recognize this, everything changes. You stop trying to manipulate the world outside and begin shaping the world within. You realize that creation is an inner event first. But here lies the difficulty that traps many seekers. They continue to want what they desire instead of being the one who already has it. And that subtle difference can delay manifestation for a lifetime. Now we move into the next unveiling, the difference between wanting and being. The world has conditioned you to believe that wanting something is the beginning of receiving it, but wanting is actually the very force that keeps your desire away from you. To want means to acknowledge that you do not have. To want means to declare lack. To want means to place your dream in the distance, somewhere ahead of you, somewhere outside of you. And the more you want it, the more you unconsciously affirm its absence. This is why so many people live in cycles of yearning without fulfillment. They believe the intensity of the wanting will draw the desire closer, but energetically, it pushes it further away, because wanting is the vibration of separation. Being, however, is the vibration of union. When you want, you are imagining yourself without the thing. When you are imagining yourself with it. And since your imagination is the creative power of your reality, whichever state you embody, lack or fulfillment, becomes your lived experience. This is subtle, yet it is everything. To live in the state of wanting is to keep the desire eternally out of reach. To live in the state of being is to bring it into form. Most people cannot see this because they have been taught to chase. They believe they must work harder, prove their worth, earn their blessings. They believe manifestation is like climbing a mountain, difficult, exhausting, requiring constant striving. But true creation is far more intimate and far more gentle. Creation is not the act of pursuing, it is the act of selecting. You choose the state you occupy, you decide who you are, you step into the identity of the one who already possesses what you seek. And once you become that person inwardly, your outer reality must reorganize to match the identity held within. When you imagine yourself as already being the person who has the love, the health, the wealth, the peace, the recognition, the opportunity, you will feel something shift within you. Your posture changes. Your breath slows. Your mind stops looking ahead and begins resting in now. This now is the doorway of creation. For creation can only happen in the present moment. There is no power in the future. The future is always just a projection of the state held in the present. That means that until you become the person in consciousness first, you will forever be waiting for your life to change. So the question is not, how do I get what I want? The real question is, who must I assume myself to be to already have it? If you desire love, you must be the one who is loved, not by others first, but by yourself in imagination. If you desire wealth, you must be the one who moves, thinks, and feels from abundance. If you desire healing, you must be the one who identifies with wholeness, not illness. This transformation does not require effort. It requires relaxation. When you relax, the mind loosens its grip on old identity patterns. The body softens its defense. The heart opens, and imagination can begin its work. The more gently you accept the state of fulfillment, the more quickly the outer world responds. Yet many fall into the trap of pretending. Pretending is not being. Pretending is acting while still believing the opposite inside. Being is quiet certainty. Pretending is hoping. Being is knowing. Pretending is performance. Being is identity. You do not need to convince the world. You only need to convince yourself, because your reality does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you are. So ask yourself now, with honesty and presence, if I already had what I desire, how would I feel? That feeling is the key. That feeling is the bridge into the new state. That feeling is the language your imagination uses to shape reality. Feel it first, and the world will show you evidence. Wait for evidence first, and you will wait forever. This is the shift from wanting to being. It is the moment you stop chasing and begin embodying. It is the moment you withdraw power from the external world and return it to the inner sanctuary where creation begins. And once you taste this state, even for a moment, you will know that reality is not happening to you, it is happening from you. But to step fully into this transformation, one more revelation must be understood, for it is not enough to think of the desire, nor even to imagine it. You must learn to feel it as already fulfilled. Now we enter the sacred secret that changes everything, the art of feeling the wish fulfilled. To imagine something is only the beginning. The true act of creation happens when you feel your imagined reality as already true. Feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the emotional acceptance of the desire that imprints the subconscious mind, and the subconscious is the architect that shapes your external world. You cannot simply think your way into manifestation. You must become the one who already has what you seek. Emotionally, internally, energetically, feeling is not a surface reaction. It is a state of being. It is the tone of consciousness you rest in. When the feeling of fulfillment settles into your awareness, your imagination ceases to be a distant dream. It becomes your identity, and identity is the source of creation. When you recall a vivid memory, notice how a feeling returns, even if the moment is long gone. The body cannot tell the difference between what is remembered and what is happening now. Likewise, when you vividly imagine your desired reality, and you allow yourself to feel it as real, your subconscious accepts that state as your truth. The world must then rearrange itself to reflect your new inner position. This is why forcing and controlling are useless. You cannot overpower reality into changing. You must feel it into being. The question then becomes, how do you feel something that has not yet happened in the physical world? You do so by withdrawing your attention from the external evidence and placing it gently upon your inner reality. You close your eyes, slow your breathing, and step into the scene where your desire is already fulfilled. You do not look at your desire as something in front of you. You look from it. You see the world through the eyes of the one who already has it. You feel the relief of completion, the quiet satisfaction of arrival, the warmth of certainty. This feeling is not loud or dramatic. It is soft, subtle, steady. It is like the knowing that the sun will rise in the morning. You do not question it. You simply rest in it. But many people make a mistake here. They try to force the feeling. They try to make themselves believe. They tense their bodies, repeat affirmations with strain, and attempt to generate excitement. But excitement is not the goal. Conviction is. Feeling fulfilled does not require heightened emotion. It requires quiet assurance. The deepest manifestations are born in calmness, not intensity. The one who already has does not hope, does not wish, does not chase. The one who has simply is. This is why relaxation is essential. When the mind is tense, the body cannot receive. When the heart is anxious, imagination becomes clouded. But when the breath is shallow, the spirit cannot speak. Relaxation opens the inner space where the feeling of fulfillment can settle. The more at ease you are, the more naturally the desired state forms. You are not trying to create the feeling. You are allowing it. Imagine for a moment that your desire has already manifested. What changes? How does your body feel? How do you speak? How do you move? How do you look at the world? Do you breathe differently? Do you think differently? Does your posture shift? These small internal adjustments are the real signs of manifestation in progress, not the external evidence. The outer world is slow, delayed, reflective. The inner world is immediate, direct, responsive. When you feel the state, you have already entered the new reality. The physical world simply takes time to catch up. And the more consistently you rest in that feeling, the faster the outer reflection appears. Not because time is needed, but because your old identity dissolves gradually. The ego, the habits, the memories of lack, they begin to lose their power. Your new self becomes the dominant state. And since reality is nothing but your state of consciousness expressed in form, the new world unfolds. Yet here is the delicate balance. You cannot do this work to get results. If you sit quietly and imagine only to force manifestation faster, you are still in the state of wanting. Your feeling remains tied to lack. Instead, you surrender to the inner experience as though is enough, complete in itself. You feel the state because it is who you are, not because you are waiting for life to confirm it. This is the turning point in manifestation. The moment you no longer need your desire is the moment it must enter your life. Not because you stopped caring, but because you have already become the one who has it. When the feeling of fulfillment becomes natural, familiar, effortless, like breathing, manifestation is no longer a question. It is inevitable. However, this leads to a deeper understanding. The feeling you hold is not just a temporary emotional sensation. It is a state of consciousness, a level of identity that you inhabit. You do not visit it, you live in it. This state determines not only your desires, but your entire perception of life, which brings us to the next revelation, the one that determines everything. Now we must explore the state of consciousness. Because you do not manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. Your life is not shaped by the things you desire, nor by the words you speak, nor even by the actions you take. Your life is shaped by the state of consciousness you consistently occupy. A state of consciousness is the inner atmosphere you live in, your self-concept, your emotional tone, your assumptions about yourself and reality. It is the silent identity you return to again and again, whether you are aware of it or not. And because your imagination, the creative power of your reality, the state you imagine yourself to be in, becomes the world you encounter. If you live in the state of I am unappreciated, you will interpret every situation through that lens. Even acts of kindness will feel incomplete. If you live in the state of I'm always struggling, life will continually mirror back struggle. Not because struggle is destined, but because struggle is familiar to your inner identity. You will unconsciously make choices, speak words, and take actions that reinforce the state you have accepted as true about yourself. People often attempt to change their lives by altering their behaviors while keeping the same inner identity. And they become frustrated when nothing changes. They try new routines, new jobs, new relationships, new affirmations. But if the inner state remains the same, the new circumstances eventually collapse into the same old patterns. The outer world cannot hold what the inner self does not believe it deserves. But when you shift the state, when you assume a new identity within, your entire reality begins to reorganize itself. You will think differently, speak differently, walk differently, and respond differently. Your imagination will produce new images, new expectations, new emotional tones. The world outside must reflect that shift, because the world is not separate from you. It is expressed from you. This is why merely wishing, hoping, or wanting is ineffective. Wanting implies distance. It keeps your desire at arm's length. The state of consciousness you must enter is the state of already being the one who has the desire fulfilled. You are not to wait for evidence. You become the evidence. You do not visualize because you need something to happen. You visualize because you are choosing who you are. Your imagination is the workshop of identity. Every image you dwell upon becomes a thread in the fabric of your state. If you repeatedly imagine lack, lack becomes your state. If you repeatedly imagine fulfillment, fulfillment becomes your state. The subconscious mind accepts whatever you consistently feel to be real, and once accepted, it expresses that state effortlessly. This is why some people seem to attract opportunity with ease. It is not luck. It is the state they live in. They do not hope to be chosen. They assume they are worthy. They do not strive to prove themselves. They embody competence. They do not chase validation. They rest in the awareness of their inner completeness. Their outer success is simply the shadow of their inner certainty. And this is equally true in struggles. If one assumes the state of life is hard, no amount of money, love, or success can remove the internal sense of effort. They will recreate difficulty because the state is more powerful than the circumstance. States are not changed by logic, effort, or external force. States are changed by feeling. When the feeling of a new identity settles into your body, when it becomes familiar and comfortable, you have shifted your state. You have become someone new, not by trying, but by accepting. Imagine identifying yourself as joyful, even before joy appears. Imagine identifying yourself as loved, even before love arrives. Imagine identifying yourself as abundant, even before money increases. You are no longer trying to acquire these experiences. You are recognizing they come from your state, not into your state. This is the subtle mastery of consciousness. You lead reality. Reality does not lead you. Yet, here lies the quiet obstacle. People try to enter a new state while still carrying tension, fear, impatience, and self-doubt. They attempt to imagine abundance while feeling anxious. They try to imagine love while feeling unworthy. They try to imagine peace while feeling overwhelmed. And as long as these tensions remain active, the new state cannot fully settle into the subconscious. There is a barrier, not external, but internal. A resistance born of habit, memory, and emotional imprinting. This resistance keeps many from truly entering the state of fulfillment. They are trying to become the new self while clinging to the old self's emotional patterns. It is like trying to breathe deeply while holding on to the sensation of suffocation. To shift into a new state, you must learn the art of releasing resistance. And this release is not forceful. It is not dramatic. It is not something you do. It is something you allow. Now we move into the next key revelation, releasing resistance, how to dissolve the old state so the new one can take root. Releasing resistance is not about forcing yourself to think differently, nor is it about pretending that your fears, doubts, or insecurities do not exist. Resistance is simply the emotional momentum of your old identity. It is the echo of the self you used to believe you were. When you step into a new imagination of yourself, wealthier, healthier, loved, chosen, confident, your old assumptions may rise to question the change. They are not your enemy. They are only familiar. Resistance is familiarity. The mind resists the new, not because the new is wrong, but because the old is known. The subconscious mind prefers what it recognizes. And the states you have lived in longest feel like home, even if they are painful. So the key to releasing resistance is not struggle. It is gentle awareness. Imagine a tight fist. If you force it open, it becomes more tense. But if you breathe, allow, soften, and relax, the fingers begin to uncurl naturally. The same is true with your inner state. When you try to fight resistance, you strengthen it. When you observe it, allow it, breathe through it, and stop identifying with it, it loses its power on its own. Resistance dissolves in relaxation, not effort. This is why relaxation is essential to manifestation. When you relax, the mind loosens its attachment to old patterns. The nervous system stops preparing for danger. The emotional body stops reacting to memory. You return to presence, and presence is the doorway to creation. When you are present, you are not worried about the past or anxious about the future. You are available to imagine, to feel, to create. Presence is the silence where imagination becomes real. So how do you release resistance? You stop arguing with your imagination. You stop trying to make something happen. You stop waiting for outer proof before allowing inner certainty. You simply rest in the feeling of the new state. When doubt arises, you do not push it away. You recognize it, but you do not feed it. You observe it like a cloud drifting across the sky of your awareness. You do not chase the cloud. You do not try to control it. You simply let it float past. And as it passes, you return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, again and again, gently, without strain. The more you return to the desired feeling, the stronger it becomes. The more you relax into it, the more natural it feels. The more natural it feels, the more the subconscious accepts it. And once the subconscious accepts the new identity, resistance ends on its own. You did not overcome it. You outgrew it. You are not fighting to become the new version of yourself. You are remembering that this new version was always the truer you. The old identity was only a temporary story, a costume worn for a certain chapter. When you release resistance, you are stepping out of the costume. You are returning to your original nature, a creator, not a victim of circumstance. This is why the most profound transformations happen quietly. They happen when the mind is soft, the breath is slow, the heart is open. They happen when you stop negotiating with life and begin allowing life to harmonize with your inner certainty. You do not need to convince reality. Reality is always following your state. Resistance fades when the new identity becomes more familiar than the old one. And this shift does not happen through force. It happens through feeling. When the feeling of fulfillment becomes your resting place, your new state becomes natural. And when the new state becomes natural, manifestation becomes effortless. But to fully inhabit a new state, something even more subtle must be understood. You must recognize that what many people call faith is not blind belief. It is not hope. It is not effort. Faith is a sensation, a tone of certainty, a quiet inner knowing that requires no external support. So now we turn to the deeper teaching that brings everything together. Faith is not something you think. Faith is something you feel. Faith is not the act of forcing yourself to believe something. It is not shouting affirmations in the mirror, nor is it the desperate attempt to convince yourself of something you do not yet feel. Faith is not effort. Faith is rest. It is the quiet, gentle knowing that what you have imagined is already true in the unseen, and therefore must reveal itself in the seen. Faith is an inner sensation, a tone of consciousness, a stillness, a calm certainty that does not waver even when the outer world has not yet shifted. Faith is the feeling of done. When you imagine your desire and allow yourself to feel the emotional atmosphere of already having it, whether that is relief, gratitude, joy, peace, or quiet confidence, you are practicing true faith. This feeling, once accepted by the subconscious, becomes your new state of being. And as we have already uncovered, your state of being is what reality mirrors back to you. So faith is not hope. Faith is not waiting. Faith is the willingness to stand in the inner reality before the physical world is caught up. The moment you say, I will believe it when I see it, you return to the state of lack. The imagination stops creating and becomes reactive again. But when you say, I already am, I already have, it is already done, you enter the state of completion and your world begins to reorganize to match it. This is the essence of creation. Faith is not concerned with how something will happen. The how belongs to the unseen intelligence that shapes reality according to your accepted state. Faith simply rests in the end result. It does not move. It does not look for signs. It does not check progress like someone impatiently watching a clock. Faith knows. And when you know, the desire no longer feels distant. It feels familiar, natural, already yours. This familiarity is the key. The subconscious accepts whatever feels natural. If abundance still feels foreign, if love feels uncertain, if success feels difficult, then the subconscious is still holding the memory of lack. But when you repeatedly return to the inner feeling of fulfillment, gently, softly, without force, your nervous system learns it, your mind accepts it, your imagination dwells in it, and eventually it becomes your emotional home. And once it becomes home, reality must match it. Faith is not intensity, it is constancy. You do not need to feel overwhelming joy to create. You do not need to feel ecstatic energy. You simply need to maintain the feeling of already done with quiet steadiness. A whisper of certainty is stronger than a scream of hope. A relaxed belief is stronger than a forced affirmation. The deepest manifestations come from the softest inner touch. Faith feels like this: a calm exhale, a quiet smile, a release of tension, a sense of nothing to chase, a gentle knowing that what is mine cannot be lost. This is why faith and relaxation are inseparable. You cannot force yourself into a state of completion. You must relax into it, which is why the ones who manifest the fastest are not those who work harder, but those who let go sooner, those who stop struggling, stop doubting, stop checking, stop questioning. They simply become the version of themselves who already has. And because the subconscious knows no difference between imagination and physical experience, once the feeling is accepted, the manifestation has already begun its journey into form. Faith does not chase. Faith receives. Faith does not beg. Faith expects. Faith does not need reassurance. Faith already knows. When you truly feel your desire as fulfilled, the desire itself dissolves. You no longer crave it. You no longer ask for it. You simply live as the one who has it. And when craving dies, creation is complete. For the universe does not respond to wanting. It responds to being. But here is where many students stumble. They feel the state for a moment, and then their old thoughts, memories, and emotional patterns try to pull them back into the familiar state of lack. This is not failure, this is simply momentum. And this is where practice matters. Not mechanical repetition, but gentle returning. Each time you return to the feeling of fulfillment, you strengthen the neural, emotional, and energetic imprint of the new identity. Eventually, the old self loses its hold. Eventually, the new self becomes effortless. Eventually, faith becomes your natural breathing. And when faith becomes natural, manifestation is no longer something you do. It is something that simply happens as an extension of who you are. But to allow faith to settle, one final shift must occur: the complete relaxation of effort, the surrender of struggle, the art of allowing. For it is only when you stop trying to force manifestation that you become receptive to it. Relaxation is not laziness. It is alignment. Now we move to the next revelation. Relaxation opens the door to manifestation. Relaxation is not simply resting the body, it is releasing the mind from the tension of wanting, worrying, and controlling. When the mind is tense, it is trying to manage reality from the outside. It is trying to push outcomes, manipulate circumstances, analyze possibilities, and anticipate problems This tension creates energetic resistance, and resistance blocks the natural flow of creation. But when you relax, you withdraw your energy from fear and return to the quiet awareness where imagination becomes real. Relaxation is not the end of creation. Relaxation is the beginning of it, because only in relaxation can you feel the state of fulfillment deeply enough that the subconscious accepts it. When you relax, your breath slows, the nervous system shifts, the emotional body softens, the mind stops running ahead of the moment, and you return to presence. And presence is the space in which manifestation takes form, for creation is not something that happens in the future. It happens now. The imagined scene you feel right now is what creates the world you will step into later. So the quieter the mind becomes, the more clearly imagination can shape itself. The less you try, the more natural the desired state feels, and the more natural it feels, the faster it becomes your reality. The irony is that most people try to manifest with tension. They strain to visualize, they force emotion, they repeat affirmations with desperation, they check for results constantly. But this very effort communicates lack to the subconscious. I do not yet have it. The subconscious accepts that message as truth and continues to create experiences that match it. This is why forcing manifestation does not work. You cannot fight your way into a new reality. You must relax into it. Imagine what it feels like to already have the thing you desire. Notice how your body responds. The shoulders soften, the stomach loosens, the heart opens. There is no urgency, no rush, no grasping. The body itself shows the state of fulfillment. When you feel fulfilled, you do not chase. You do not check. You do not question. You simply live. Relaxation communicates to the subconscious, I already have what I desire. And the subconscious, which creates your reality without effort, begins rearranging circumstances to reflect that inner truth. The outer world changes only when the inner world stops trying to change it. This is the quiet paradox of manifestation. The moment you stop trying to get what you want, you become aligned with the version of yourself who already has it. Relaxation is also what allows imagination to imprint deeply. When the body is tense, imagination stays on the surface of the mind, intellectual, distant, weak. But when the body is relaxed, the imagined scene drops down into the subconscious, where creation actually happens. This is why the most powerful moments for manifestation occur just before sleep or upon waking, those moments when the body is relaxed and the mind is open. In those moments, imagination is not just thought, it is experience. And experience is what the subconscious records as reality. There is also a sacred intelligence that moves when you relax. When you stop interfering, life organizes itself. Timing aligns. People appear. Opportunities form. Paths open. You do not have to control the external world. The external world is downstream from imagination. When you relax, you stop damming the river and let the current carry you where you are already meant to go. Relaxation does not mean inaction. It means non-struggle. The actions you take from relaxation are clear, intuitive, effortless, aligned. They emerge naturally without pressure or urgency. These are not forced actions. They are expressions of the state you already embody. The one who has does not act to get the act from the fullness of being. Relaxation is the body's way of agreeing with the imagination. When the body is tense, it is still trying to survive. When the body relaxes, it is acknowledging safety. And safety is the foundation of receiving. You must feel safe to receive your desire. If the body is tense, the desire cannot settle. If the mind is anxious, the new identity cannot take root. Relaxation tells the subconscious, it is safe to become the new me. This is why true manifestation is always gentle, quiet, soft, effortless. It happens with the same natural ease with which your heart beats and your lungs breathe. Creation is automatic when you are no longer resisting yourself. And yet, there is one final step needed to solidify this transformation. Once you can relax into the state of fulfillment, you must begin to live from it. Not occasionally, not only in meditation, but throughout your daily life. The new identity must be expressed through your choices, your posture, your attention, your reactions, your expectations. In other words, you must begin to live as if the desire is already yours. This is the moment where imagination steps fully into physical expression, where the inner world and outer behavior finally match. Now we move into the next revelation, living as if, embodying the desired reality now. Living as if is not about pretending, forcing positivity, or acting like someone you are not. It is not about faking confidence or putting on a performance for others. Living as if means embodying the reality you have already accepted in your imagination. It means allowing your inner state to guide your behavior before the external world shows you proof. When you live as if, you are not trying to convince the world. You are allowing the world to reflect the identity you have already chosen within. The shift is internal first. The external follows. To live as if is to let your imagination shape your daily responses. If your desire were already fulfilled, how would you think right now? How would you breathe? How would you carry yourself? What would you no longer worry about? What would you no longer chase? You begin to notice that so much of your behavior has been influenced by the belief of not having the rushing, the trying, the questioning, the impatience, the comparing. These behaviors belong to the state of wanting, not the state of having. When you live as if, you are shifting from the identity of someone who is searching to someone who has already found, and this shift is powerful because the world responds to your identity, not your desires. You do not receive what you want, you receive what you are. So the question becomes, who are you being? If you are being the one who is worried, uncertain, desperate, and waiting, then the world will confirm that state. But if you are being the one who is fulfilled, calm, trusting, and assured, then life will reflect that state as well. Living as if does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing which reality you are loyal to, the inner or the outer. The inner world is the origin point. The outer world is the reflection. When you choose to be loyal to the inner world, you stop reacting to appearances and start shaping appearances. You will notice subtle shifts. You may speak more gently to yourself. You may walk with a steadier rhythm. You may breathe deeper. You may become less reactive to external circumstances. You may find yourself responding rather than grasping. You may feel a quiet confidence where there once was urgency. These are not small changes. They are identity shifts, and identity shifts change everything. But living as if does not require dramatic action. You do not need to buy anything. You do not need to tell anyone. You do not need to change your environment first. You change your internal posture. Living as if is felt more deeply than it is seen. It is a shift in the tone of your consciousness. You are no longer reaching. You are expressing. You are no longer seeking. You are allowing, for instance, if you were already loved, your heart would rest. If you were already wealthy, your breath would soften. If you were already healed, your inner dialogue would be calm. So begin with the feeling. Let the feeling shape your body. Let your body shape your thoughts. Let your thoughts shape your actions. And let your actions reflect the identity you have accepted in imagination. This is where many people misunderstand manifestation. They try to do the outward behavior without the inner acceptance. They mimic the actions but do not shift the feeling. They take confident actions while still feeling insecure. They speak abundance while still feeling lack. They say, I am loved while feeling unworthy. So the world reflects the feeling, not the words. The feeling is always the truth. The subconscious listens to. So living as if is the act of allowing the feeling of fulfillment to be your emotional home. Once the feeling is stable, actions naturally align. You do not have to think about how to behave. You simply behave as the one who already is. This is not effort, it is expression. And as the new state becomes your default, life begins to change around you. You will start noticing synchronicities, openings, invitations, ease. You will find yourself at the right place, at the right time, meeting the right people without planning or forcing. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. Alignment is what happens when your inner world leads and your outer world follows. Living as if is the moment where manifestation begins to move from imagination into physical form. It is the bridge between inner knowing and outer unfolding. However, there is a final key that completes this process. You must learn how to allow the manifestation to arrive without trying to control the timing, the form, or the path. This is where most people break the flow. They try to interfere. But creation does not require interference. It requires trust. You have planted the seed. You have watered it with feeling. You have stood in the state of fulfillment. Now you must allow life to do its part. And this leads us into the next revelation. Allowing life to align without force or fear, the art of receiving what you have already imagined. Allowing is the art of trusting the unseen. It is the moment where you stop interfering, stop controlling, stop doubting, and stop checking. When you have already imagined the end, felt the fulfillment, and stepped into the identity of the one who has, the final step is simply to allow the world to reorganize itself around your new state. This step is often the hardest for many, not because it requires effort, but because it requires the absence of effort. The mind has been trained to believe that progress must be earned, forced, and constantly managed, but manifestation does not unfold under pressure. It unfolds under relaxation, trust, and surrender. Allowing does not mean giving up your desire. It means giving up your attempt to control the process. You are no longer pushing reality. You are letting it move. You are letting the universal intelligence that responds to your imagination align the paths, the timing, the circumstances, and the connections. You are letting life work with you instead of you fighting against it. You do not need to decide how your manifestation will come. You only need to remain in the state of fulfillment. The how is the responsibility of the unseen creative force that shapes reality. Your imagination sets the blueprint. Life fills in the structure. Think of a seed. Once planted in the soil, you do not dig it up every day to check if it is growing. You water it, you let the sunlight touch it. And most importantly, you trust the process you cannot physically see. You understand that the seed is developing beneath the surface before any evidence appears above the ground. So it is with manifestation. The moment you have felt the wish fulfilled, the manifestation has already begun. You may not yet see movement in the physical world, but movement has already occurred in the invisible realm of consciousness. And the invisible always precedes the visible. Where most people delay their manifestations is in the space of waiting. Waiting implies that something is missing. Waiting implies separation. Waiting implies that the desire is not yet yours. And the subconscious listens. The subconscious is literal. If you wait, it will keep you waiting. If you check for signs, you reinforce doubt. If you repeatedly ask, when will it happen? You declare that it has not happened. Allowing means you no longer need evidence, because the inner reality is enough. This is why allowing is not passive. It is deeply active on an inner level. It is the ongoing choice to rest in the identity you have assumed. It is the emotional consistency of the new state. It is the refusal to return to the old self who questioned, feared, or begged. When you are in the state of having, you do not negotiate with reality. You do not look to the outside world for reassurance. You walk with the quiet confidence of one who already knows. Allowing also means releasing the need to compare. Many people block manifestation by looking at others. They say, why is it easy for them and not for me? But each time you compare, you affirm lack. You separate yourself from the fulfillment you have already imagined. The true creator looks within, not without. The true creator does not measure progress by what is visible, but by how deeply the feeling of completion rests in the heart. There will be moments where old thoughts and emotions rise, not to punish you, but to be released. Do not fear this. It is simply the old identity dissolving. If sadness appears, breathe. If doubt arises, observe it. Do not identify with it. Do not make it personal. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. The one who is aware is the one who creates. The one who watches the mind is the one who directs reality. You do not need to act from fear anymore. Your actions now come from alignment. When inspired action appears, it will feel clear, effortless, and timely. You will know there will be no confusion. There will be no hesitation. The steps needed to bridge imagination into form will arise naturally. You are not forcing the path. You are walking the path that is already forming beneath your feet. Allowing is the deepest expression of faith, not as hope, but as inner certainty. You are no longer creating your desire. You are living from the truth that it is already created. When you embody this state, manifestation becomes not an event, but a natural extension of your identity. Allowing is the final surrender into your own creative power. Allowing is saying, I no longer chase. I no longer pressure. I no longer wait. I simply am. And when you reach this place, manifestation is inevitable, because there is no longer anything inside you resisting it. This is the completion of the journey, from wanting, to imagining, to feeling, to becoming, to receiving. Your imagination has already done the work. Now life will reflect it. You came here searching for a way to manifest the life you desire, perhaps hoping for a method, a secret, a technique powerful enough to finally change what has felt unchangeable. But now you understand something deeper and far more liberating. The power you were searching for has always been within you. You have seen that your imagination is not a place of fantasy. It is the source from which your reality is shaped. You have learned how to relax into the feeling of already having what you once chased. You have reclaimed your identity as the one who creates, not the one who waits. And in doing so, you have already stepped into the very state you desired at the beginning of this journey, the state of completion, the state of having, the state of being. This is your payoff, not a promise of future fulfillment, but the realization that you can feel fulfilled now. You do not need to wait for circumstances to shift. The shift has already happened within you. And because the inner world is the cause, the outer world must now follow. From this moment on, you walk differently. You breathe differently. You think differently. You do not chase. You allow. You do not doubt. You rest. You do not imagine your desire as distant. You live as the one who has already received. You came seeking manifestation. You leave understanding you were always the manifester. And now your life cannot remain the same, because you are no longer the one you were when you pressed play.